live with Yoke and Nick Smit. Nick, it's so nice to have you back.
Thank you. It has been awesome to have these shorts. So I've been looking forward to this one since we had the last one.
Definitely. And it's really provided so much value. So for today, we're really discussing the cost of not leveling up.
Mm.
What does not leveling up mean to you, Nick?
I think not leveling up means like being stuck where you are and not maybe taking those leveling up opportunities, maybe a promotion or maybe something that might move you out of your comfort zone, but it's something that's good for you. So it's not necessarily in a career opportunity. It can be in your home setting. It can be in your personal life. Leveling up isn't career orientated only. It can be across your whole spectrum. At least that's what it is for me. What does it mean for you?
Yeah, I think the danger of not taking that next step in your life is Alan Weiss always says it. You can't face the problems of tomorrow with yesterday's mindset. So if we're looking at all the changes that's happened ever since
Mm.
COVID, I mean, how many skills have we learned just because we were forced to work remotely or
Yeah.
offer training or speaking remotely? So had we not actually leveled up and found ways of connecting with people online, we would have actually been left behind. So I think like in many ways it's what are the skills you can learn? Like you say, how can you stretch yourself? So even physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually to become the best you.
Yes, and that's again you've diversified it even more, and I think you're absolutely right. You know, leveling up doesn't only have to be academic; it can be emotional, it can be spiritual, it can be anything. I think leveling up means to you something different than it means to me because my personal life or my experience in life and my goals and my aspirations are different to yours. So I think your
Yeah.
leveling up could be your leveling up could be something like going to, let's say, going to church every Sunday. My leveling up could be doing an international talk in America. Both of them are leveling up in different degrees.
Definitely. So what have you been doing to push yourself this last year in terms of leveling yourself up?
So I
Where have
think
you practiced this? Yeah.
So I think for me, it was winning speaker factor that was pushing me to level up in that competition itself. But then following that, I've had to level up often because I've been put in situations or given opportunities to level up. And with my mindset, my growth mindset, and my idea of not letting fear control me, but rather facing the fear, um, I've said yes to most opportunities that have come my way in terms of speaking or leveling up. And so I've spoken at some bigger events. I've spoken internationally now. I've spoken locally more. I've done some chapter events here and there for Professional Speakers Association. In fact, I've got another one tomorrow night.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so for me, it's been a constant iteration of who was I before and who can I become next. Also included in that is obviously growing my reach to an overseas market. So just last night, I had a call with an American podcaster.
I saw that.
Yes. So that's my way of leveling up. I push myself and look for opportunities and go, okay, how can I level up in that degree? How can I level up in that degree? I think an important thing that I want to mention here is because I've been told this before or asked this before. Someone said to me, if you're constantly doing that, aren't you a yes man? Aren't you just saying yes to everything? And it may sound like I'm saying yes to everything, but I'm choosing what to say yes to in the line of the goal that I want to achieve. So if someone says to me, you've got this awesome opportunity to go and train to be an astronaut, I'm going to be like, thank you, but no thank you, because that's not in my interests and it's not in my goal. It's not within my sphere. So if someone comes to me and says, you have an opportunity to speak to the astronauts at NASA, I'm going to say, yes, book that plane, I'm going. So it's not saying yes to everything in order to level up. It's saying yes to the right things.
It's very aligned to the talk we attended last week where Alison Via was speaking about the top three priorities you should have in your life. And when you know what those big chunks are,
Yep.
to say yes to those things that will get you closer to those things that are aligned to your purpose, but also your core values.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
quite love that. Yeah.
That was an awesome session. I took a lot of notes and I've tried to apply those even now.
So for me, I've decided even beginning of this year to just also try new things out.
Mm.
So to push myself also physically. So where I used to do adventure boot camp for about 10 years, I now do high intensity training 3 times a week and it's rough. This morning I had to
Training
like
is
recover. I had to recover for an hour because of the weight training. But it's if you want to make changes, if you're not willing to push through the discomfort and try new things out, it's not going to happen. So for
yes.
me, it's actually quite refreshing to be in that environment and to be
Mm.
pushed. And I've seen the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and then you're actually noticing that your strength is increasing.
Yep.
So because you've now been doing these heavy weights, you can actually do more. And you like look at the old weights you used to pick up, and you're like, "What is that? That is ridiculous. Put that
Yes.
away. I
And
need higher
and
weights, please."
yes, and I think you've touched on something really important, which is your locus of control. And I know that we're going to cover that in the workshop as well, because you've just said now you made the decision to do that, right? You made the, you started doing more hit training, and you've made the decision to do heavier weights, and that's your locus of control meeting your goals, meeting your aspirations, meeting your leveling up. So they're working together. Do you want to talk about locus of control?
Sure, it's really. I mean, it's when we're looking at goal setting, and if I look at coaching my clients, they always start off with things that are outside of their control. So, especially on the corporate side, people will moan about what did the HR managers say?
Mm.
They haven't been approved to study an MBA because the company doesn't allow this and this amount. But what I then pull them back to is what is in your control, and can you perhaps influence things? And can you find out what type of a training budget is available
Yes.
to you? And can you perhaps actually notice what you can afford on your own versus having to
Yeah.
rely on the company? So, your locus of control is the things that you can control yourself. So, like your attitude, your beliefs, your thoughts, but also your actions and how you make meaning. So yesterday I was training a team and it was so interesting, and we spoke about professionalism and the unwritten rules of business.
Okay.
And one of the areas the company wanted them to focus on was positivity. So they were like, be positive, don't be negative. And I was like, okay, it actually starts with your thoughts. So we did this whole exercise around how can you reframe your thoughts and interrupt them and
Yeah.
become aware of them, and then choose to focus on other things or solutions. So in that moment to actually interrupt yourself. And it was so interesting because like there were 10 people in the room and 9 out of them said that was the most important piece for them because they really struggle. 70% to 80% of their thoughts are negative. And
Mm.
in any country, if there's problems or there's infrastructure issues or whatever it is, people tend to be pulled into negativity
Yeah.
very, very, very easily. So, so, so to be careful, no matter where you're at, what are you thinking about? What are you constantly thinking about, and can you actually change it? So, some of
Yes.
the ways that we spoke about was even journaling, doing morning pages. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that has really helped me change some of the thoughts or notice the patterns.
That also, speaking about journaling, I've done that with some of my mentees that I work with, and I've got them into journaling and journaling in different ways. So, for example, some of them write in a book, some of them use an app, and then some of them don't even use either of those. They speak to a character and they record their thoughts. Either way, they all come back with the same solutions, or they all not same solutions, but they all come back with the same feedback, which is, it's helped me, it's clarified things, it's lessened the stress. And I think that is a real big eye opener for them. They weren't aware of some of these things that they were carrying around with them, and then being able to either put it down on paper or share it in some way, they're able to almost rationalize it and maybe compartmentalize it, or maybe deal with it in a different way, or say, wait, I need to go and speak to this person because it's actually affecting me so much. And they didn't actually realize that before.
A lot of it has to do with system one and system two thinking. I don't know if you've read Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, but thinking
No,
fast is literally, we tend to make snap judgments and think very quickly, and our brains are actually lazy. So it likes to automate. So we'll stereotype, and you'll look at me in a funny way, but I didn't realize that the sun is like glaring into your eyes, and I'll be like, oh, he hates me because somewhere in my life that expression means hate. And then immediately my gut reaction might be to walk away or run from the room.
yes,
But system two thinking, what we were speaking about now, is actually interrupting yourself and saying, like, no, if someone offends you, um, what does it mean? Can I be curious? Could it mean something
yes,
else? Can I ask for more feedback?
yeah,
Can I decide first what it means before I start feeling in a certain way? So what
mm,
happens is we tend to be so quick that we actually flooding our systems with adrenaline and cortisol, which the research actually shows causes heart attacks. It causes huge stress issues for people, and a lot of impact on negative impacts on their bodies. And just because we flood ourselves with these negative toxins that comes from our negative thoughts. So if you
yeah,
can stop it before it becomes the emotion, before you have that feeling, then you will actually be healthier. How weird is that? It's
yeah.
it's insane.
So I haven't read the book, but I did watch a few YouTube clips about it. And one thing that I noticed is, like, if I ask you, count to five, and you automatically count to five, that's easy, right? But if I ask you to say, for example, times 12 by 152,
You've
you
lost
won't be
me
able to do
already.
that in your head. So you have to go into system two, right? Where you have to calculate things. And then what they did is, in this video that I was watching, is they likened that to acting versus reacting, or doing something on the fly versus taking time to write it down and think. So what they said was, rather be an actor than a reactor. If you react, you're doing something on the, straight away. Some kind of stimulus hits you and you react. Obviously, that's necessary in some situations. Like if your hand is burning, you need to move it away. That's normal and that's okay. But in other situations, like if someone's shouting at you, you have an opportunity to act or react. And when we think of acting, it means internalize, or rather think about it, then react in a certain way or act in a certain way, and not just say, okay, this is it, and this is exactly what I'm going to do straight away. Rather take a breath and think about it. That can also mean over a longer period of time. So you could even ask someone else what they think and then come back. It doesn't have to be in that moment.
Yeah, I had an incident. I actually wrote a LinkedIn article about it where I had to receive feedback, and it wasn't the easiest thing to receive, but I had to apply that metacognition, and it was all over messages, but to say, like, I don't need to respond immediately. I can calm down. I can first put myself in the person's shoes and then figure out how I'm going to respond to this, and then resolve it. Versus what people tend to do is they tend to get into the fight and flight mode and immediately go on defensive and say,
Yeah,
it's not what I meant, being sarcastic or aggressive, and then you're actually not even getting anywhere, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about now, and what we kind of covering is also, it sounds like we're talking a lot about different people, interacting with ourselves and external things, and that does happen at work. but this is directly impacting or can directly impact you and empowering yourself. You know, if you think about a situation where it may cause you feelings of stress, do you act or react in that situation? And going back to what we said earlier about A, locus of control, and B, leveling up, if you think about those situations, if you get in a situation and you suddenly say, like, for example, no, I don't want to do it, that's maybe reacting to the possibility of something that's a little bit stressful for you, a little bit different, maybe a little bit out of your comfort zone. So now, if you have to react to that, you wait, hold on. Maybe this is better for me. Maybe let me think about it. Let me do a PNI chart, positive, negatives, and interesting. Let me do a PNI chart and see what the opportunities are and see what I can do and then make a decision. Oh, actually, it could be better for me. So all of this can be tied in directly to self-empowerment as well.
Definitely. I've never heard of the PNI chart. That is so cool.
Thanks.
Interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
It just
so
brings that third perspective. Everything is
yes,
not just a strength or a weakness, like you said with your it's not just polarized, black or
yeah,
white. There's different
yes.
ways of actually looking at it and seeing that perspective and doing something about it. Yeah.
And that's
So
exactly what that column is. The interesting column kind of forces you to think of it from a different perspective. Like, those are the positives, those are the negatives. Oh, I could pick that up as an aside. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Or maybe I could work with that person, and although that's not directly in realm of what I want to do, that could be interesting. So yeah, that's exactly what it's for.
so Nick, if a person is in their comfort zone and they're not investing in personal or professional development, what does that lead to? What are some of the costs to that, would you say?
I
In the
think
short term and in the long term.
Okay. So in short term, if you don't push yourself and look at growing your comfort zone and almost leveling up, you can stifle your own growth to a point where you become stuck. And then you feel like it's the external environment causing you to be stuck, but actually it's not. It's you that you caused yourself to be stuck because of your limiting choices that you've continuously made. So in terms of a short term, you might be stifling yourself in terms of making opportunities grow for yourself then and there, within the year, let's say. Um, on a long term basis, the classic, and I actually did a Pecha Kucha on this a few weeks ago. There's that question of what if, and if you don't push yourself out of your comfort zone and you don't look to grow and you don't look to level up, in my opinion, you can be using what if as a negative thing. And so you could be saying, like, oh, like what they always say,
What if I fail?
yes, what if I fail? What if he or she says no? And then you stifle yourself because of those what if failures or what if thoughts that are negative. I always try and turn those around. And I'm like, okay, yes, what if you fail? But what if you succeed? What if he or she says no? Sure. What if he or she says yes? There's always two sides of everything, and especially those what if moments of uncomfortableness. You can push through those. You can look at them from a different perspective and give yourself those opportunities. So, from a long term perspective, going back to your question, from a long term perspective, if you look back maybe 10 or 15 years later, you look back and you go, if only I had done that. What if I didn't do this, or what if I did do that differently? You kind of looking at those opportunities now rather than looking at them 15 years from now. Not everything is going to be rosy, not everything is going to work, but go for it. Learn from those experiences. I think I said this in the last session. In my view, life is made up of two things: choices and experience, and they have a direct link with each other. So the choices you make give you the experiences that you have, and vice versa. So if you don't level up, if you don't push yourself out of your comfort zone, you're losing both of those, or you're impacting both of those negatively. What does
I
it
want to
mean for you?
share I want to share a little story of someone that it wasn't it wasn't her own fault that it happened, but it did due to circumstances. So we have family. My cousin actually moved to Germany, and he married a girl from East Berlin. And when the Berlin Wall came down, her mother used to be a chemical engineer. But because they literally, the east of Germany stayed so far behind on the development of, the Industrial Revolution, she literally could not get a job in that industry anymore at
Sure.
all. And she's now a domestic worker in
Wow.
Germany. And from, being a qualified chemical engineer. So if we don't intend to keep on staying lifelong learners,
Mm,
but also, sometimes it has to do with what do you have access to. So, if your own
mm,
country doesn't have access to something, at least now these days you have the internet. You can get coaches in places all around the world. You can get inspiration from places all around the world, buy material, buy books, you know.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
don't limit yourself by what's in your own town or in your own country. Actually, try to
Yes.
see how do you benchmark internationally
Yeah.
and how can you be more future orientated. So a lot of
Yeah.
people get scared with chat gpt, AI. Can you not look at what are ways to make use of it, or what are
Mm,
ways for you as a human to still stand out in a world of AI? So can you
yeah.
be more creative, innovative, use critical thinking? There's an array of skills that humans can do much better than
Yeah.
what AI can still do. So
Yeah.
so if you're not going to level up, your job may be replaced, or you might just completely lose track of what's happening. And unfortunately, what's quite sad with women, Nick, is very often this happens when people go on maternity leave, or sometimes they even take 10 years off raising their children, and then they only go back and they've not done any leveling up. And then it's like this crazy world that they step into. It's almost
Yeah.
like when people have been in prison for so many years and they come out and they see how the world has changed. That's often how it looks for women that come back after many years after raising a children. So I
Yeah.
would say every year you need to look at what are ways that you are leveling up, um, and looking towards the future, not towards the past. Like, what will this change future look like, and how can you actually prepare yourself for it? So whether it's paid for courses, whether it's short courses, whether it's events like ours that will give you real skills that will actually move you towards your goals. I would
Yeah.
definitely say it's crucially important. So we're nearly reaching the end. I just want to do a shout out. Our event is on Saturday, the 4th of March, and we would love to have you join us. Anything else from your side, Nick? Where would they find value in joining our workshop?
So I think in terms of finding value, it's a jam-packed event. So we've got Yoka, you doing a whole bunch of different things, then I'm doing a whole bunch of different things, and guys, we might, or ladies rather, we might even throw in some salsa dancing moves, in the break. So if you're looking to learn salsa dancing as well, I'm there, and I just, for me, it's just a whole package of take who you are now and think of yourself as a more empowered person venturing forth, going forward with new skills, new oomph, new drive to take on the year, to really make 2023 the best year that it possibly can. I think the problem with us right now is a lot of people are still suffering from COVID fatigue. You know, there was COVID and now we've come out of COVID, but it's still happening and still having impact. So I think if you are also having like a sense of COVID fatigue where you feel like trapped or you feel like I'm still the old me and whatever, this is the kind of thing that's going to push you forward.
And re-accelerate your enthusiasm for life as
Yes,
well. So I'm so excited to do this with you, Nick. Thank you
me
so
too.
much.